Hi, 1 and 2 year old leaders. We're preparing for February 9th in our series called Lost and Found. In this series, we're finishing up the prophets. And if you pay attention to our series title, Lost and Found, it'll help you know that throughout this series, we've been looking at God's people who were exiled out of Israel because of their disobedience, and all of their strife and all of the things that have happened as a picture of our separation from God. Not only were they physically separated from their land, but they were separated from God because of their sins. And God desires to restore that. And his desire to restore that is going to come through Jesus. In our lesson today, we're going to be looking at the book of Ezra. Ezra is one of God's prophets, and there are some things that happen in this time. The people are still in Babylon. This is where they were sent because of their disobedience. And remember, there were 70 years that happened. So like a whole generation of people live and die in Babylon. And so new generations are rising up. But what happens in this part of their exile in Babylon, God appoints, or there is a person that rises up within the kingdom, Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel is a relative, let me get this right. Zerubbabel is the grandson of King Jehoiakim, who had been taken to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, Jehoiakim was one of those, remember we had all those names that were exactly pretty much the same. It all sounded like Jehoiakim, but Zerubbabel is the grandson of this king, in Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar. Now the King Cyrus is king. God moves in King Cyrus and has him declare to the nation of Judah that they are going to be released to go back to their land. And when they go back, they are to rebuild their temple. So this excites the people greatly. Thankfully, God moved this king to allow this to happen. Now, everybody that was exiled into Babylon was not sent back. Only 50,000 people were sent back. And Zerubbabel was the leader of these people, and he had them start to rebuild the temple. Remember, the temple is where God meets his people. He used the temple as a picture to show the people that he was with them. Now, was God only in the temple? Probably not his character to only be in the temple. It was really meant to be a picture for the people of God's sovereignty. And what we're going to see is God working out his promise in his sovereignty. When the people built the foundation of the temple, they celebrated. And some of the older people, remember we said this was a whole generation of people, some of the older people remembered the first temple. And as they are seeing the temple rebuilt, they're crying. And the sound of their celebration and their crying was heard from far away, and I'm sure celebrated. And then, as we learned about last week in the nation of Edom, maybe not celebrated. Maybe it was looked upon as a negative because of the strife and the separation from God. And so in your small group today, you're going to get the chance to make a cute little craft with the kids. Now, I'm going to give you the chance to be the leader that you want to be today. If you want to use your kids' actual feet and put an imprint of their feet on here, you are welcome to do that. I will give you paint that you can do that with, as well as wet wipes. If you don't want to be that leader today, that is completely okay. I completely understand that. So I have given you feet that kids can decorate and just glue in place, and you can pretend that those are their feet. You could also, if you don't want to use the paint to put an imprint of their feet on the paper, you could you could just trace around their feet if you want to on the paper. Again, that's totally up to you. You know your kids, you know how to work with those kids. I will give you a hint in case you have never tried to do this before. Something I saw another really smart leader do is they put the kids in those bucket seats, especially in the 1-year-old room, and they got under the table and put paint on the kids' feet so they can't really tell what it is, so that it doesn't end up everywhere, and then did this under the table. So if you want to try to do something like that, you probably are going to have to be able to do it just one kid at a time, which is why we gave you the feet cutouts, left and right feet, so that they can glue this on the paper if you would like them to do this. And ultimately, what the picture of feet show us is that our feet can help us follow God. We can follow God in captivity. We can follow God in the promised land. We can follow God in helping to rebuild his church. We can follow God in all of those circumstances. And this is a great picture. And who doesn't love to get a little picture of their kids' feet every now and then as well? So that is your activity. Then your memory verse is rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. Then you can pray with your kids and send their art home. Hopefully it's dried. In all of your classrooms, there are some clothespins, and hanging these pictures if they're not totally drippy wet on those clothespins helps them dry, so that you can pass them out and send them home with the kids. Want to let you guys know, if you haven't already prepared to do this, there is we are doing a marriage event on February 16th. As a way to help build up godly relationships. And so if you and your spouse or fiance or boyfriend, girlfriend, ideally it would be marriage, because it's going to point directly towards God's covenant of marriage. If you are not married, you could still come. So don't see that as a way that excludes you. It's just going to encourage you that marriage is God's design for men and women to be in relationship with each other. And so if you would like to come be a part of that, come be a part of that. We will have childcare for kids from birth through 3rd grade with some activities for them to do while you guys go and build your marriage and begin to build healthy relationship with each other. Thank you so much for leading. I'll see you guys soon.